Hey everybody, thank you once again for joining us for our coverage of E3 for Polygon.com. I am Griffin McElroy. Joining me is my colleague, my brother, my co-host, Justin McElroy. And joining us, I'm very excited. One of the biggest surprises of the show for me so far is Transformers Devastation. And here to tell us a little bit more about it is Robert Conkey from Activision, Atsushi Kurooka, and Kenji Saito from PlatinumGames, who is the developer on the game. Thank you all of you for joining us.
Absolutely. Hello. Thanks for having us.
So one of the things that I'm most excited about for Transformers Devastation is the style of the game itself. We've seen a lot of Transformers games over these past few years as the movies have been released that are going for more of a photorealistic look, and to have a game that is more in the cartoons aesthetic is really exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of the stylistic direction you guys are taking this game in?
Yeah, so the concept behind the stylistic look of the game right now is so kind of wanted to do something fresh that hadn't really been done in the game in the series before, and we asked Platinum if they could do something like that. And after a lot of discussion, we all kind of ended up on the same page where we wanted to do something that really paid homage to the rich history of the Transformers brand. And to do so, they took inspiration from lots of places. One of them being the IDW comic series, that's a Generation 1 reboot, and then also the Hasbro's Generations toy line, as well as, of course, the original TV show. And they kind of all mix all these influences together to create this kind of unique, classic yet modern world that you're seeing in the footage. So very excited about it.
How familiar is the combat of Transformers Devastation going to be to Platinum fans? Are we going to see the same sort of combo-centric, hardcore combat approach that we've seen in games like Bayonetta and Wonderful 101?
Sounds like a question for their director. So let me give that to him. まあ以前の PG さんのゲームとどれほどまあ似てるもしくは違ってるでしょうか。
そうですね。やっぱりプラチナの持ち味っていう触り心地、レスポンスの良さっていうのは依然として変わっていません。まあしかし新たなる要素をトランスフォームをしてトランスフォームをゲームの規模に据えてゲームの規模に据えるというところが変わっています。
はい。So in terms of the responsiveness of the controls and the way that the game that you control the game, it's going to be very familiar to fans of Platinum's games. However, they've done things in this game that have never really been done before in terms of a lot of the combat mechanics are centralized around the act of transformation, which is kind of interesting and unique that you definitely have not seen in any of their games before.
That was actually my next question. I was going to ask how you fit a car into the types of combat that we've seen in Platinum games before. In the trailer that you showed, there are obviously scenes of cars flipping into other robots, which is one of the best things I've seen in an E3 trailer this year so far. How do you work something like that into the combat of Transformers?
Okay, well I can tell you all about that one. So the way that it works is so transformation is really central to the combat, and in actually multiple ways. So one of them is so you'll see as they're fighting, and you can see it in the B-roll, but there'll be combos, and at the end of a combo you'll get like this little blue sparkle, and if you press the transformation button right when the blue sparkle happens, you'll actually turn immediately into your vehicle form, and you'll do an attack that kind of goes, so if you knock an enemy backwards, you'll turn into a vehicle and follow them and be able to follow up that combo with a full new combo. If you're an advanced player, you can do that multiple times in a row and chain it to do some really fancy, really cool looking stuff. And then additionally, it's used defensively, so actually dodging is actually a form of transforming. And so what happens is you can press the button partway to just dodge, you can press it all the way to dodge and transform. And then the last way is we have this thing that we're calling rush attacks, where they're really, really powerful combos that you can only do when you're at max speed in vehicle mode. And so in order to pull them off, you've got to turn to a vehicle, you back off from the battle, or you just floor it really quick and come right back, and then you do the attack, and you can do really awesome stuff with it. You can break enemy shields, and you can do a bunch of other things. And so all those three things combined are really forming the center of the combat in the game.
What can you tell us about the story of the game? Because obviously we've seen a lot of different takes on Transformers. Narratively, what's going on in Devastation?
Yeah, so narratively, so first of all, the story is written by Andy Schmidt, who is a writer for IDW Comics, and he's also worked with us on previous games, War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, Rise of the Dark Spark. So he's very well very well versed in the brand, and we leaned on it very heavily and we all kind of worked on it together. Platinum, Activision, Hasbro, and Andy. So what happens in the story is just to give you the overview. So the Earth has suddenly and violently started being transformed into a kind of Cybertron-like world. We're calling it cyberforming. And nobody seems to really know why. The Decepticons have shown up, and they seem to know a little bit more than anybody else. Megatron has an idea, and he goes and explores and finds this underground ship that appears to be the source of this cyberforming phenomenon, which is really destructive. And then the Autobots show up on the scene and try to basically stop him because he ends up getting in there, and he has some plans around it. So that's kind of the overview of the story, and it's set in Hasbro's Generations universe. So.
Interesting. So obviously Transformers is a huge property in America and in Japan. Yep. Is that sort of the impetus behind this partnership? Because if you had asked me before E3 started if a PlatinumGames Transformer game was going to be announced, I would not have bet on that. That is quite surprising. Is it the brand's popularity in the two countries that sort of brought you guys together?
Yeah, I mean that was certainly a part of it, and I'll let those guys talk to it too because they're super passionate about it. So Transformers がやりたいと思ったきっかけっていうか個人的にPG さんスタジオとしてなぜトランスフォーマーズがやりたいと思ってました、黒部さん。
そうですね。きっかけというとアクティビジョンさんの方からそういったテーマでっていうところを提案していただいて、我々としては、当然日本でもすごく人気のあるタイトルなんで、これはやりがいがある、我々の力を出し切れるテーマだと、そういうふうに思って仕事プロジェクトが始まりました。
はい。So yeah, first I mean, Activision we've worked with Hasbro for years now. We have the Transformers license, and we'd worked with PlatinumGames previously, and we were like, we need someone to develop. We need someone to develop Transformers. Wait a minute, PlatinumGames would be really good, really good for this. And we talked to them, and they've been fans of the show, and he was saying that they felt that it was something that they could really lend their particular skill set to. Made them really excited about it, and they've seen the show in Japan as we did. They have a lot of stake in that brand. A lot of people really love Transformers in Japan. So
this is the second licensed game from Platinum after Legend of Korra. I'm curious how working on a licensed game differs from, and how does it compare to sort of working on your own thing that you created from the ground up?
じゃあ今回で2回目ライセンスタイトルを作るんじゃないですか。実際3回目か。でもそれでどう違います？自分の IP ものを作るとライセンスものを作る方法に対してどんな違いがありますでしょうか？
そうですね。やっぱりキャラクターに対して制限があるというところは、その IP ものというかキャラクターものの一番の大きいところなんですけど、やっぱり、ゲームを考える上ではそれを一回ちょっと取り払って新たな視点で、作品を見てみようというのを僕は命題としていつも、ゲームを組み立てていきます。
So the first thing that jumps out at them is the fact that there's limitations around what can be done with characters, and so that is definitely more of a challenge in that regard because they can't just do anything. They need to stick to it. But at the same time, the way that he works is he says, first, let's just see if we can find something cool, and then we'll see if we can figure out, how we explain this or if we can make it work. So let's not just shut things down because they're not necessarily what you see in Transformers. Let's see what we can do here, and if we can work with it, if it's that cool, right? So that's kind of how he works.
Do you feel like you've had a lot of freedom to explore the Transformers franchise? I've always thought that, obviously we've seen a lot of the films and games out of that property, but do you feel like you've had a lot of freedom to do your own thing in this universe?
ピリさんの、作りたいトランスフォーマーズにどうでしょうね。作る抵抗の中で結構フリーダムがあったように感じますね。もしくは結構
自由にやらせてもらって
自由にそうと思います。
そうですね。アクティビジョンさんの方からは特に大きな制限はなく、トランスフォーマーのキャラを使ってアクションゲームを作ってくださいという、お題をいただいたので、僕の方で、じゃあトランスフォームをどう、ゲームに組み込もうというのを考えていって、出たアイディアとしてはその攻撃の 起点となる部分でのトランスフォーム、攻撃としてのトランスフォームというところが今回のゲームになってます。
はい。So, when we started out, the line that Activision gave them was, "Guys, we want you to make a Transformers game. What do you got?" And it was like that open, right? We just kind of said, "Tell us what you think you can do." And that was when they started thinking about it, and they came up with the idea of using transformations for attacks specifically at that point. They have like long-term die-hard fans in their studio of Transformers. That know every single thing about them. And as an aside, they have a guy who actually orders every single BotCon exclusive robot, right? Like super hardcore, right? And so what they did was they just gathered ideas from the whole team. Like, okay, we have this character. What moves can he do? And how does it fit in the show? So they were obviously thinking about that as Transformers fans rather than just as purely game designers.
Robert, what's next? When can we play it? When we'll be able to get our hands on it?
You mean like in a when will it be released sense, or?
Yeah, any sense, yeah. Robert. I just want to play it. I just want to make robots and other robots that are also cars.
Yeah, I'd say if you're here, you could come by our booth and you'd be able to play right now.
Rub it in.
Sorry.
All right, I get it.
All right, but the game will be out in fall this year.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Kenji Saito and Atsushi Kurooka and Robert Conkey, thank you all for stopping by to tell us more about the game. It really was one of the big surprises of the show for me, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Really glad to hear it. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
And
awesome.
thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We'll have more E3 video coverage for you throughout the week.